starts now. Together. Connections spark innovation. Ideas ignite breakthroughs. Technology fuels possibility. Let's discover more. Expand our horizons. Transform what's next. The brightest minds. The biggest leaps. The boldest change makers. Let's design the future together. This is power. This is community. This is Cisco Live.
Please welcome Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer, Carrie Palin.
Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Yes, we have 22,000 of you with us this week in San Diego. We do not take for granted that each of you chose to spend time with us and commune with us and learn this week. And we have curated an epic lineup for you, and I'm so excited to talk you through it. Today, we're going to start by bringing up our Chair and CEO, Chuck Robbins, to talk about how Cisco is well positioned to be your partner on your AI journey. And after that, we will welcome to the stage our new President and Chief Product Officer, Jeetu Patel. Not brand new, but a year into the role, and you will be so amazed by the incredible innovation Jeetu and his team are driving on behalf of all of you. And he will welcome to the stage a very special guest, the CISO of CVS, Alan Rosa. Yeah. And they're going to talk about the Cisco AI Advantage and the power of the portfolio. And he will end, and you do not want to miss this. I want to stress, do not leave, because the end is the big drop the mic, because G2's going to have our brand new board member and Chief Product Officer of OpenAI, Kevin Weil, to talk about agentic AI. And folks, if you've never heard Kevin, you don't want to miss this. Yeah, it'll be bonkers. Okay, and then when you're done with Keynote, make sure to stop by the World of Solutions, where you can get hands-on with our amazing technology and our amazing partners and have a whole lot of fun communing with your peers. And lastly, make sure you stop by the Cisco store. We have a limited edition hoodie this year, only 150 of them, and also some amazing merch with Cisco and McLaren Racing collabs. So go get yours and have some fun. And with that, I'm going to welcome to the stage Chuck Robbins, Chair and CEO of Cisco.
Limited edition hoodies. We've really arrived now. You know, the watch companies sell scarcity, the car companies sell scarcity. We're bringing scarcity to Cisco Live, only 150. Don't leave now, though. They'll be there afterwards. Welcome to everybody. We're so glad you're here. And for all of you in the room, thanks for joining us. For everybody in the other rooms here in San Diego, thank you for being here. And for everybody watching remotely, we're glad you're with us as well. Now, my team had in my notes today that I'm supposed to tell you that I'm excited. I'm excited. And they also wanted me to say that this is perhaps the most important Cisco Live I've ever been to. And it made me think, every quarter I tell my team, this is the most important quarter we've ever had. And I thought, do we say that every year, that this is the most important Cisco Live ever? We probably do. But this year, we mean it. And I'm serious about that. If you saw all the press releases that hit this morning, which most of you probably have not yet, the payload of innovation that you're going to hear about today is probably the most that we've delivered here at Cisco Live in my career. And so hopefully you're excited. I think it is perhaps the most consequential Time for us to come together, given what's going on in the industry. It made me reflect back in the late 90s. Yes, I'm old. With the internet build-out, it was incredible. But this is moving faster, it's more complicated, and the upside is even greater than what we saw then. And everything about what we're doing today starts with a very cool technology. It starts with this technology that we've all been around for a very long time, the network. We started as networking companies. This event used to be called Networkers. Thank you. There's 12 people out there that still remember. And we believe, and most of you have told us, that the network is more important as we make this transition to agentic AI than it ever has been. And all the innovation that you see this week wouldn't occur without the network, and it's dependent upon the network. And our opportunity is to work together in this AI era, and it will be, for all of us, the most important work we've done to date. And we're going to talk a lot about one particular convergence that we believe is going to be critical for agentic AI, and that is the fusion of security into the network. The race is on, and we all know it. The pace is unbelievable. What we're learning is unbelievable. When you hear Kevin later, he's going to talk about things that they planned on doing maybe 2 months ago. They've already changed, or they've already evolved and already moved to the next thing. Last year we were talking about chatbots and inquiries and efficiencies, and now we're talking about how do we manage the workforce, humans and agents. 98% of you feel an extreme urgency to deliver on AI, and 85% of you think within 18 months, you have to do it within 18 months, but very few of you feel truly prepared. And this is a global AI race. I think we're all aware of that. I was asked yesterday at an analyst event, what's the biggest concern I have, and it's the geopolitical dynamics that we're all facing today. And we all know that every company, every organization, every government around the world, there's also a defensive mechanism associated with this. There's a FOMO element. Your CEOs, I talk to them. They want to move fast. They're worried about safety and security, but they're also just as worried about having one of their competitors move faster and create a competitive advantage that they don't have. And I suspect that every one of you either presents to the board at every board meeting or presents material that's presented at the board, if you have a board, whatever your governing structure is, about what are you doing in AI. So I would contend that your role is more important than ever. How you run, how you secure networks, the demands that you're dealing with, computing power, bandwidth. We're going to talk a lot about the bandwidth requirements of agentic applications and agent-to-agent communication and the real-time, low-latency need to transmit those requests and those responses. Lower power consumption, reimagine security. This creates a great opportunity, it creates a great challenge, and it creates very strong pressure on all of us, which is kind of healthy, I hope. The bad news is you're all at the heart of making this happen, and the good news is you're at the heart of making this happen. I remember I was in a meeting a few years back, and somebody made a comment and said, what if no customer ever buys another Ethernet port? I looked at him like he was crazy, and he was crazy. We're collectively at the heart of driving this change, and secure networks are going to be at the heart of it. 97% of you said modern networks are critical to make this happen. So there's three big things we know. The network's foundational. Hopefully we've established that. The second interesting thing that we see is that private data centers are back. Boy, I could talk forever about all the pressure we felt on the transition to cloud. I think that was the same time when someone said, why will anybody ever buy an Ethernet port again? And now most of you are looking at a very balanced hybrid approach and thinking through, clearly you're going to use the cloud. There's great efficiency and there's great value, as you've seen over the years with our wonderful cloud partners and what they do for all of us. But you're also going to have smaller instances, smaller models. You're going to have small models running at the edge. So you're going to need to work hard on building out your own private infrastructure to go with your public infrastructure. And we need a new approach to safety and security. Most everybody in here has probably experienced some sort of security incident in the last 12 months. And here's an interesting stat. I think it was last year, less than half of you believe that your employees in the organization you're in actually understood the risks associated with AI, and that was before we started moving towards agentic AI. So we need to fuse security into the underlying network in order to be able to apply network services, security services at wire speed while you're running these applications. And we believe that we have a meaningful role to play. We have networking and we have security. None of our networking friends have security, none of our security friends have networking. It's an interesting place to be. I think we have the right portfolio. This week's an example of the pace of the innovation that our teams are delivering. And so I really believe that if we establish the fact that we need to put security into the network in order to deal with agentic AI applications, then we really can't build secure AI without what we can do together as we leave here. I don't believe there's any company better suited right now to help you. Now, you might say I'm biased, but I like to think I'm objective. There are lots of companies that are going to help you. OpenAI's here, NVIDIA, AMD, there's lots of companies that are going to have a role to play. We think when it comes to secure networking, the fact that we have networking, security, and silicon, don't underestimate the combination of those. Secure AI, AI-powered collaboration, the platform advantage, and don't underestimate the power of programmable silicon as we build platforms as we go forward. If you run into Martin Lund around here, he runs our silicon business and he's walking around with our latest chip in his back pocket. You can have him show it to you. We have a long history of working together with all of you. Many of you have been coming to this event for a very long time. And we're proud of what we've done together. We're proud of the trust that we have in each other, both our customers and our partners who are actually attending this event. And then the global partnerships and the ecosystem. And hopefully you've seen how active we've been with our partnerships and working on sovereign deployments around the world. 5 of the 6 hyperscalers, the next phase of our NVIDIA partnership. We've talked about our OpenAI partnership, the recent Middle East announcements that we made. We think we have a real good handle on what's going on in this space and how we can work together to help you be successful as you move forward. We all built the network when we viewed it as being critical, powering the internet. If you don't think the network's critical, well, that's not even the way to say it. We all know the network's critical because when you do have an outage, you get a few phone calls. No one says, oh, well, I'll just go home till tomorrow. It's so critical. And the same way the critical infrastructure that we built for the internet, the critical infrastructure that we collectively built that powers the infrastructure in your environment, we're going to do the same thing for agentic AI. Every one of you, when you think about what you need to actually be successful in this new phase, what you've told us in our discussions is you need to modernize your infrastructure, you need a new approach to safety and security, and you need more skills. And we want to help you with all 3 of those as we go forward. And as we think about how that comes to life, it comes to life through these outcomes that help you achieve this. We want to help you do 3 things. We want to help you build AI-ready data centers. We want to help you future-proof your workplace, and we want to do that with an underlying layer of digital resilience. And I'm going to quickly touch on all of these, and then G2 is going to go deep in each of these areas in just a few minutes. When we say AI-ready data centers, we know that we have to transform our data centers to power AI workloads anywhere. We need seamless operations, observability, security everywhere. And we want to help you do this with technologies like Secure AI Factory that we've announced with NVIDIA. Today you're going to hear more about reimagining the data center with solutions like expanded AI pods, which we announced recently, unified Nexus dashboard. You're going to hear a lot about how we're going to help you build AI-ready data centers. Future-proof workplaces means we want to modernize everywhere people work and the technology they use. I think most of us know that when we came out of the pandemic, this approach where everybody worked remotely, there's variations to that now. There's some companies that are saying you have to come back. There's some companies saying you come back 3 days a week. But we know that the employee experience matters. It is so important. So whether it's secure campus and branch networking, smart buildings, collaboration devices, user protection, innovations like what we brought out with Wi-Fi 7 earlier this year, or the Nexus 9300 smart switches with integrated GPUs. Today we're going to build on that momentum and talk to you about the biggest leap in our core networking in years across the campus, the branch, and our industrial portfolio. And then digital resilience. A year ago, we came together for the first time at Cisco Live and talked about Splunk and the integration of Splunk into Cisco and how that was going to be a baseline for delivering digital resilience with a lot of our other technologies like Thousand Eyes, and the integration of Splunk and Cisco to unify the data across your entire footprint. And think about how AI and these models short-circuit all the problems that we had doing this in the past. Right? Everybody was trying to build some big data lake with databases, and with AI and with agentic and with some of the new protocols that we can use to access legacy data sources, we can do this in ways much faster than we ever could to help you keep your organization up and running. It includes assurance, observability, SecOps. A few weeks ago at RSA, we announced how we were going to bring Cisco XDR and Splunk even more closely together. We announced some agentic AI applications in security for threat resolution. And as we do this, we think we're going to give you a platform advantage because at some point, and G2 talks about this a lot, you can't just scale more people to fight the threats that we're going to be fighting on a global basis. We have to scale the machines to fight those threats. And we're going to compound value that we can create for you, and you're going to hear more about that from G2 this week. So as I think about what we can do together, I think it's important for us to first realize that we're all having to evolve at an incredible pace. I mean, this is changing so quickly. Between the technology transitions and the global geopolitical landscape, all of our lives are so much more complicated than they used to be. As you try to achieve these outcomes and build the infrastructure to be ready for this AI era, the agentic AI era, quantum, whatever's next, you have to have security, you have to build it with integrity, and you have to build it with a consideration for humanity. And that's underpinned by trust. And we want to partner with you to bring that vision to life in a way that you feel good about. So as I walk off today, I want to just reiterate two things. We believe that the era of agentic AI is only going to be secured by applying security services in the network to those workflows. And if you believe that, and Cisco is the only company that can fuse networking and security together seamlessly with technologies that we own, then hopefully you'll allow us to partner with you so that we truly can succeed together. Thank you again for being here with us this week.
The future with AI won't be a straight path. It'll twist, it'll turn, it will zig, then zag. The answer isn't to avoid going forward. It's knowing how to navigate your way with certainty and speed, even when the path is complex. Cisco is powering the AI era by empowering you to reimagine data centers and workplaces with unrivaled infrastructure, security, and resilience, clearing your path to wide open possibility. Cisco, making AI work for you.
Please welcome President and Chief Product Officer Jeetu Patel.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? Great. It's welcome to San Diego. Welcome to Cisco Live. This is a particularly special one for me. Chuck mentioned this is one of the most consequential Cisco Lives we've had, but this one is extra special. Ask me why. My 14-year-old daughter is joining us here today for the very first time. And you know, I asked her, I'm like, hey, this is a really special day for Daddy. Can you make sure that you come to my event? So the first question she asked me is, how long is it? And then this morning, she said, Dad, it's 8:20 in the morning. But jokes apart, honey, I love you. Thank you for being here. It's very, very special. And like Carrie mentioned, stick around towards the end. We've got a really, really special guest, Kevin Wheels here. He's a good friend of mine. He just recently joined the board, and I can't wait to share the perspectives that he has with you on what's happening with AI as well. But before that, we've got a very, very, very exciting set of innovations that the team's been working extremely hard on that I want to make sure that we actually share with you. So let's start by thinking about what's happening in the world at a macro level, because the next era of AI is here. And if you think about what's happening today, we're moving from 2.5 years ago when we had that seminal moment in November of 2020, when ChatGPT arrived. We had this kind of notion of chatbots that intelligently answered our questions. And it felt like magic. And we're moving from that era to now, where all of us are used to that, to an era where agents are autonomously going to be able to conduct tasks and jobs on behalf of humans. And this is going to have a profound set of implications in the world that all of us will actually get affected by, and all of us will have an opportunity to really make a tremendous amount of positive light with. One of the big areas, though, that's going to be fundamentally impacted by this is the workforce. And today, 100% of the workforce that we actually participate in is humans. What we're going to have is a tremendous amount of augmentation to this workforce with agents, with applications, with robots, with humanoids that'll actually now participate along with the workforce that we have. And so what it does is it actually massively compounds the capacity of throughput that we can have. So 8 billion humans will feel like we have the throughput capacity of 80 billion humans. But what this is going to have is a fundamental set of implications on the underlying infrastructure that's going to be needed to power this movement. And it's essentially going to have massive shifts in architectures. Like Chuck mentioned, there's going to be a shift in the architecture where it's not just going to be around public clouds. You'll actually have a good combination of public cloud and private cloud, because there's a reacceleration, especially with inferencing workloads, where organizations want to have their own private cloud data center capacity built out for AI. Number two, AI is fundamentally going to be network constrained. And so we need to make sure that we actually don't have this be bandwidth constrained. It's also going to be compute constrained, and it's going to be power constrained. And three is safety and security is going to be profoundly important in this era, because if we don't trust AI, we're not going to use AI. And so the question you might ask is, so what is Cisco focused on as we go through this entire movement, and why is it that we're going through this entire movement? One of the big reasons that this is important is because if you start to look at the world, there's only going to be two kinds of companies in the world. There's going to be companies that are extremely dexterous with the use of AI, and then there are going to be companies that really struggle for relevance. And we want to make sure that we can actually help you be the company in the first category by providing all the necessary infrastructure, safety, and security. And so what we've done, and we've thought long and hard about this, is what should Cisco uniquely focus on that's going to help you take advantage of this movement? And so there's three particular areas. The first one, like Chuck mentioned, is we want to make sure that we can provide you a world-class set of infrastructure for connectivity, as well as for safety and security for this AI-ready data center build-out that's happening. We'll talk a lot more about that. The second area, and that's where, by the way, all the digital workers are going to live, right? The second area is making sure that we future-proof workplaces where all of us work, whether it be a campus, whether it be a branch, whether it be an office, whether it be a car, what have you. And then those two will need to collaborate with one another. So we need to make sure that we have an underlying substrate of global connectivity. And third is we have to make sure that this infrastructure is resilient so that if there is an outage, you're able to get back up as fast as possible. So those are the kind of three core areas that we're going to be focusing on. We have a ton of innovation in each one of those three areas that we'll share with you. And all of this is going to be powered by a foundation of AI. Now, the question that you might ask is, what is unique about Cisco as we do this? What specifically are we doing that only Cisco can bring to the table? And there's three things that we can think about that are very unique and are structural advantages for Cisco. The first one is this notion of providing a platform advantage. And what I mean by a platform advantage is we have a tremendous breadth of capabilities of technology within our portfolio. But unless they all work in harmony with one another, you don't really get the most amount of value from it. But if you can actually reduce the marginal cost of ingestion with every single new technology that you buy from Cisco, and every single technology that you buy doesn't just add value by itself, but it also actually compounds value on things that you already own, what we've done is created a very, very advantageous platform advantage for you. So that's number one. Number two, like Chuck mentioned, is this notion of silicon. We build our own custom silicon ASICs for the network. Why is that important? First, it actually gives you diversity so that you have choice and you don't have vendor lock-in by just having a single provider for silicon. But the other thing that's actually really important is the way in which we've built out our silicon, the architecture that we've used to build it out, has programmability. And what that means is every single time that you want to support a new kind of use case, we don't have to go out and etch it into silicon and do a tape out of silicon every single time. What you can do is make sure that you have programmability so that you can program the silicon and the cycle times compress and how you might be able to have a new use case afforded to you by that same chip. And that actually creates a huge amount of acceleration of innovation because in addition to having a full top-to-bottom integration from the silicon to the network, to the security, to the models, to the applications, what we're also able to do is make the silicon itself programmable, right? And this is one area that if you do catch Martin, he's probably got the best jacket in this audience of anyone and the best chip in his back pocket. Make sure you talk to him. And then the third one is we need to make sure that AI is not an afterthought, but a foundational principle of how we build products, a foundational principle of how we operate. So those are the three key areas of structural advantage. Let's go into the details of what we've innovated in the AI-ready data centers. And as we think about data centers, we are experiencing one of the largest expansions of data centers in human history right now. And it's a phenomenal exponential curve that's only getting faster every single day. Now, the question you might ask is, why is that? And what is the change in this pattern of data center consumption that's happening? Because we've been, for the past couple of years, the data center build-outs have been very aggressive on the training front. Right? We've had a lot of large training runs we're doing with data centers. But what you're now starting to see is it's not just about training the models, it's the inferencing of models where there's a huge amount of demand for data centers that's starting to build up. But here's what's different about the agentic era with the inferencing workloads. In inferencing right now, what you see is if you have the chat era, the inferencing peaks tend to be sporadic on the left-hand side of the chart. The interaction model is very sporadic. I ask a question, it gives me an answer, and every once in a while you'll have peaks of compute, right? In the agentic era, where you have agents conducting these jobs for you proactively, what you'll have is a sustained perpetual demand for inferencing capacity. And when you have that kind of persistent inferencing need, you actually have to make sure that you change your entire assumptions on the way that the architecture has to get built out. And so there's a whole new level of demand signal for inferencing that's going to be needed for agentic AI, which is why what you're starting to see is there's build-outs that are happening all throughout the world. Now, Cisco happens to be foundational in these world's large data center build-outs. We've been helping hyperscalers for the past many years in building out data center capacity and making sure that we have connectivity intra-cluster for training runs that we can provide. We've also been helping out neo-cloud providers who are specialists in building out data centers for AI workloads. Some of them are here in the room. And we have a long-standing relationship with service providers. Now, the beauty is we learn from all of these, and the enterprise also becomes a huge benefactor of it, because all the learnings we get from hyperscalers and neoclouds and service providers at scale can then be applied to the enterprise. And so a couple weeks ago, I was out in the Middle East with Chuck, and we actually had some very strategic partnerships that we established with the government of Saudi Arabia and Humane, G42, Stargate UAE, and this is going to continue to keep happening, and you should expect us to continue to participate in these massive build-outs of data centers because they're going to be network constrained. They're going to have a prerequisite of safety and security, and we want to make sure that we can participate in that. But over the past 6 months, what's actually been staggering is the amount of innovation that we've actually had happen in this area of data centers. So if you just look at the momentum we've had in the past 6 months, all of these capabilities that we have on the screen right now are capabilities that we just launched and are available today in the past 6 months. Now, my daughter Iman was very clear about, Dad, don't go over, so I'm not going to go and drain this slide and go through every single one of these capabilities. But what we'll do is we'll talk about just a few of them in a little bit more detail. And so if you think about some of the really consequential capabilities that we've launched, the first one is providing you flexible capacity in the servers with GPUs. So you can actually start small and scale fast based on your needs. And so you can start with 2 GPUs in your server, then go to 4, then go to 8, and you can actually continue to keep scaling. The second area is Hyperfabric, where we're fundamentally reimagining the data center lifecycle. The third is Intersight, which is one of the world's best management planes for managing our UCS servers and our compute business, and that actually integrates with the rest of the platform. The fourth is a completely revolutionary product that we built around safety and security for securing AI itself, which is a common substrate of security that you're going to have across every model, every agent, every cloud, every application that you might build with AI. And then lastly, we wanted to make sure that we also provided a full stack solution in a reference architecture with these AI pods. So you can have compute, security, and storage, and networking, all provided in a single box. We'll partner with partners like VAST on the storage side and others, and we'll also make sure that we'll have compute, networking, and security in that pod. So those are some of the things, and by the way, all of these are available today, right? You can use them. There you go. Thank you. One person's really excited. Chuck says there are 3, actually, not 1. But the question that a lot of you are here for is not just what we've delivered over the past 6 months. What are we planning to deliver as we move forward? But before we do that, it's not just about the enterprise. What we've also done is done an equal amount of momentum with service providers, because service providers are the backbone of global connectivity. And we've been partnered with service providers for decades now. In fact, we've been with them in this journey all along. We started with helping them with the voice transition, then data, then video, and then now we're helping service providers with the move to AI and having them be able to assist their customers with this transition to AI. And in February, we had our CiscoLive in Amsterdam, and we announced a brand new architecture called the Agile Services Network, which essentially was infrastructure and validated designs for service providers. And what we did over there was we not only provided this architecture, but we launched a couple new Cisco 8000 series routers at CiscoLive EMEA, and we've got a couple more that are coming right now at this event. We have this notion of optics for the long haul and ultra long haul, so you can now do data center interconnects over 3,000 kilometers. We've got AI automation so that you can manage your estate effectively, and you've got provider connectivity assurance. So these are some examples of what we're doing with service providers. So you've seen a fair amount of innovation we've done on the enterprise side. You've seen a fair amount of innovation we're doing on service providers. The question you're asking, though, is what are we announcing today? Right? And so one of the areas that a lot of you have given us a lot of feedback on is, please make it simple for me to manage the Cisco estate. And I am so excited to announce my first announcement. It's always special. The first announcement's always a special one, which is a unification of the Nexus dashboard, where Nexus OS and ACI fabrics come together. Right? So this is a really big deal. This is something you've been asking for a long time. Excited to let you know it's going to be shipping in July. And now we are going to have one brain for all of our data center network fabrics. Now, what's also important is that we actually have an ecosystem of partners that we're working with. We're not just working in isolation from everyone else. And one of the most important partners in this industry that we have is NVIDIA. We've got a long-standing relationship with NVIDIA. In fact, 6 years ago, we decided to actually have an NVIDIA chipset in our collaboration devices, and that's fundamentally changed how AI can be brought at the device level. And that's not only helped our applications, it's also helped third-party applications that the device supports, like Microsoft Teams, that can actually take advantage of all the exciting AI capabilities. So we had started with that, but over the course of the past year, we've really doubled down on the partnership. And let's talk about a few of these data center innovations we've done with NVIDIA. The first one is an announcement that we made not too long ago, which was this notion of a Cisco AI, secure AI factory with NVIDIA. And essentially, it's a reference architecture where we happen to be the first non-NVIDIA silicon provider as part of the reference architecture. And we want to make sure that in this data center build-out, we're working closely with NVIDIA, and we are part of their reference architecture. But we wanted to make sure, and this is available today, by the way, we wanted to make sure that we continue this build-out. And so what we now have is the next level of this, where our switches are now fully integrated into the NVIDIA Spectrum-X architecture, and they deliver low-latency intra-cluster communication. So what that means is I can have the NVIDIA switch that's working with, I can have the Cisco switch that's working with the NVIDIA NICs, and that's actually available for you to see in a demo in the World of Solutions, so make sure you check it out, right? And so essentially, this is a very exciting kind of time, because we are continuing, the clock speed with which we're making these innovations is very, very fast. But we're also doing more with respect to AI safety and security with NVIDIA. And this is a really big deal. We launched our product AI Defense that I mentioned earlier back in January. And now we're announcing that open models developed with NVIDIA's NeMo framework can now be validated and secured by Cisco AI Defense. That's a big deal. So hopefully what you see is we're working together to accelerate the adoption of AI, because the way that adoption of AI is going to scale is you need to make sure that safety and security is established and people trust these systems, because if they trust these systems, they're going to use these systems. It's a very counterintuitive thing, because in the past, security was always at odds with productivity. And now what you're starting to see is security is a prerequisite for adoption of AI. It's a prerequisite for success, because if people don't trust the system, they're not going to use it. So I hope you see how committed Cisco and NVIDIA is to advancing this AI market with the adoption. Now, our focus doesn't stop here on security. What we want to do is fundamentally reimagine security in today's hyper-distributed world. So we want to make sure that we rethink how this architecture is going to operate. And so the team has been working really hard on this particular problem, and they've put together a video. They've put together a video. Let's take a look.
The world has changed. Users, devices, and AI-powered applications are everywhere. But security is not. It's still something that comes in a box. Until now. Introducing Cisco Hybrid Mesh Firewall, protecting workloads wherever they live. Now, policy enforcement can be distributed in our price-performance leading firewall appliances, as well as in virtual firewalls, with eBPF in modern operating systems for visibility into the inner workings of AI-native applications, or with a hardware accelerator placed right in the server complex. And perhaps most interestingly, we fuse security right into the fabric of the network using hardware-accelerated smart switches. All of this is unified with our AI-native Security Cloud Control platform, delivering granular, application-specific controls. So, if it has a vulnerability, we compensate for it. Or if an attacker is moving laterally, we see it and stop them. And we feed all the data into Splunk. It's distributed, optimized enforcement with unified management. But here's the best part. You don't have to rip out your existing firewalls, because with Cisco's Hybrid Mesh Firewall, not only can we push rules into Cisco devices, we can also push them into your existing third-party firewalls. It's security fused into the fabric of the network, providing protection for every workload, every connection, every time. Cisco Hybrid Mesh Firewall. It's security for the way the world is now.
It's pretty cool, right? Here's the big takeaway. Cisco has categorically the industry's most complete hybrid mesh firewall solution in the market, period, full stop. I'm so proud of this team on what they've done. But we wanted to make sure that we actually continued to keep innovating in all dimensions of this hybrid mesh firewall. And one of those areas is our core firewall offerings as well. And so I am delighted to announce that we have the ultra high-end firewall, the Cisco Secure Firewall 6100 series, That's going to be available in October. It's the highest performance density for data centers. This is a long time coming. But that's not all. We're also going to announce a Cisco Firewall 200 series for branches, also available in October. And that's going to have an advanced on-box threat inspection for branches. And so with these two additions, we've completed the refresh of our entire lineup. Well, we've never completed the refresh. We're already working on the next version. But this is the entire lineup at this point, from the 200 series to the 1200 to the 3000, 4000 to the 6000 series, and then also the public and private firewalls. All of those are refreshed. All of them have the industry's best price-performance ratio. We think you're going to love them. They're all managed by one management plane called Security Cloud Control, which is also the management plane that manages the rest of the hybrid mesh firewall. How cool is that? Right? But what we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that some of these core technologies that we're building solve some really big problems that we're facing as society in the market right now. And one of the big problems that we're facing is it's really hard to patch networking gear, right? And what we wanted to do was do something completely innovative. And as we had started building Hypershield, there was this kind of amazing capability that we had built that could allow you to provide shielding for a vulnerability that comes out. Here's a really interesting thing. When a vulnerability is exposed, it takes about 45 days to patch the vulnerability, but it only takes 3 days for an exploit, right? And so you've got this time where you're just exposed when a vulnerability has actually been announced in the market. So we wanted to do something completely revolutionary. So I'm announcing Live Protect, which essentially is a vulnerability shielding mechanism for Cisco networking devices. And we're going to start this with Nexus OS, and then we're going to make sure that this will actually go to our entire estate over time. And what this means is when you have a vulnerability, there'll be a compensating control, a shield, that'll be applied to the vulnerability within minutes. And then over time, as you have a patch, the vulnerability will get taken over, will be taken away. So amazing innovation, Live Protect. It's going to be available for Nexus OS in September of 2025. So if you notice a pattern, thank you. If you notice a pattern, I'm actually telling you about all of these announcements that are coming out, and they're all imminent. These are not very far out. Now, it's one thing to hear from me. I get my paycheck from Cisco, but let's hear from a customer who's actually completely reimagining the data center with Cisco technology. Alan Rosa is the SVP and CISO of CVS Health. Alan, come on up on stage. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
It's good to see you.
So, mesh firewalls, unified.
So much firewall.
And Live Protect?
And Live Protect.
Give me another.
That was not scripted. Thank you, sir. So, how has AI fundamentally changed your approach with modernizing your data center, Alan? Tell everyone about it. You're doing some really cool stuff.
So we're in an interesting inflection point.
I like your kicks, by the way.
Oh, thank you. They're very white. So we're at an interesting inflection point in that we have a chance to modernize our 8 existing enterprise data centers and consolidate them and move into new facilities. We're taking that opportunity to move beyond the traditional workload, embedding AI capabilities inside of our fabrics. We're thinking about GPUs first, and how do we prepare to deploy more advanced agentic solutions. And on top of that, we're taking a security lens to it. So as we think about deploying a workload, how we evolve a workload, how we deliver it, it's all going to be done in a secure context. And so our teams are very excited about that opportunity.
And how is networking changing as it pertains to that as well?
So obviously the modernization journey is there, high degrees of automation. Our teams are experimenting with agentic solutions now. And our goal is to make the network far more autonomous than it is today, and then create opportunities for our technical operations teams not to compromise stability, resiliency, and security. Just last week, we announced a 10-year, $20 billion investment to advance AI and technology. So I would say, to channel my inner Chuck, we mean it.
It's fantastic. And so talk to us, you're the CISO, talk to us about the security domain and how that plays into this whole AI arena.
So we took a unique approach to the way we built our operating model. So it starts with our people.
Yeah.
And we have some of the best engineers in the world, really thoughtful leaders that think about how we put this stuff, putting the customer, the patient, and the member first. And so when we combined our teams, we have our security and our privacy eng leaders, our infrastructure leaders, our digital workplace leaders, our enterprise architect teams together. So these teams, they look at a problem by design. It's our security leaders influencing infrastructure designs. It's our infrastructure leaders influencing security decisions. It's our digital workplace leaders thinking about how is that going to represent itself, the people who consume our services. It allows us to build more fluid products. We're seeing that pay off the last couple of years.
This seems like a fair amount of innovation. Like, what is the cultural implication that you're how do you deal with the culture of change internally within your organization as you're thinking through this?
So the thing to understand about CVS Health is that we are a people company. Folks come to us when they're facing obstacles in their health journey. These are critical moments for them, and they trust us to be there for them. And the way we think about our members, our patients, and our customers is the same way we think about our colleagues. And we want to create meaningful career journeys for them. They feel like they're owning their work, they're allowed to innovate and experiment, and we're putting the work in the hands of the people we trust the most, which is our CVS colleagues. Now, there'll always be room for providers and partners, but we're going to be far more strategic and targeted who we invite to partner with us, because our colleagues need to lead.
You know, this is off script, but I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. My mother passed away like 2.5 years ago. She was, of any brand in the world, she was the most brand loyal for CVS. And one time we had to change pharmacies for like a quick month, and she would not have it. She's like, I need CVS. I need you to make sure that my medications are from CVS. The lady's really nice. Like that translates to customer sentiment in a very, very good way. So what's next? What's next with CVS?
Well, we're going to continue. We're aspiring to build a vertically integrated digital health experience, which takes the best of our health benefits, our PBM, our pharmacies, bring them together so that it's easier for our members and our patients to engage with us. And we're going to offer that out to the public. We're hoping that drives more visibility, more connection with these folks. And on top of that is continuing to evolve our internal working culture. I mean, as I've said a million times before, we're not going far without the best colleagues in the world. And I think we have the right people working on this.
Alan, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you again. What an honor to serve you, my friend.
Thank you.
Take care. Alan Rosa. All right, next I want to talk to you about how we are future-proofing the workplace where all of us operate, whether it be a campus, branch, office, home office, your car, whatever place. And if you think about the workplace for tomorrow, it's going to be very different from the one it is today, because the workplace is going to have a fundamental augmentation of agents and robots and IoT devices, and there's going to be different ways that people collaborate within the workplace, and you're going to have constraints around power, you're going to have threats around how bad actors and adversaries attack your workplace. So all of these pieces are going to be things that have a very different set of demands from your infrastructure. So what we wanted to do was focus on 3 very specific things in future-proofing workplaces. Number 1, we want to make sure that we can provide operational simplicity powered by AI. This is something that all of you have asked for a long time. We've got some really exciting things to dramatically simplify the way in which you work and the way in which you manage your estate and your infrastructure. Number 2, we want to make sure that we have scalable devices that are ready for AI, and we've got some really exciting new devices that we're announcing. And number 3, like Chuck mentioned, we're fusing security into the fabric of the network, just like we did in data center. So let's start with the operational simplicity powered by AI is the first one out. This is an area which is near and dear to a lot of you. And basically what we're doing is we're unifying Catalyst and Meraki. I was thinking there would be a lot of excitement for that one. At the hardware level, with license management, with licensing as well as with management. Now let's dig into the unified management, because that's an area that a lot of you have had a lot of energy on. And so we're announcing for the very first time a unified cloud management with a single dashboard for Meraki, Catalyst, and all next-gen devices. We've been talking about this for years, so what I had told the team was I'm not going there and giving them another date, so this is available now. But there's more, because we're also giving you assurance for every connected experience by announcing a multi-layered assurance capability. And I'm going to take a moment over here and explain what this means, because when you think about assurance, we've been very good when you think about managing complexity, when you have an experience that's not perfect and you want to pinpoint exactly why that experience is not perfect. We've been very good at managing and depicting what's happening in the unowned infrastructure. But what we've not always been the best at is the owned infrastructure. And so what this announcement does is it expands our visibility for both owned and unowned, for networks, for clouds, for wired and wireless devices. So by the way, at this point in time, we are by far the most comprehensive when it comes to assurance being provided for owned and unowned devices. And this is going to be available this month, right? But the reality is, even though this is the best end-to-end assurance and the best kind of converged management, we didn't want to just simplify IT experiences for you. We want to fundamentally reimagine it. And this is a moment that we've actually been very excited about and working hard on for at least a year and a half. And it gives me so much pleasure and so much joy to introduce this concept of agentic ops. Basically, what agentic ops is the ability to have cross-domain visibility and management. This notion of multiplayer infrastructure management. If you think about your day-to-day job, it's not like you're working in a silo by yourself. You work with many other people troubleshooting when something goes wrong. However, all the tools are single-player tools. We wanted to actually build a tool inherently from the ground up that was a multiplayer collaborative tool. And that's going to be powered by a purpose-built AI model for networking. This is very, very cool. So let me get into the details of this, because what we're announcing, first and foremost, is a purpose-built model for network experts called the Deep Network Model. Now, what this is, recently Sam Altman was at an event and he had a very insightful line that he talked about, which is the future of models is going to be that the models are going to be very small in size, some of them. They might have a trillion token context window, and they'll be integrated into everything. Because today, if you think about it, a lot of the models act as databases. And in the future, you want to make sure that the models can go smaller in certain use cases. This is one example of one of those models, which is a deep network model. It's purpose-built for networking, for expert accuracy, and it actually performs 20% better than some of the other models as it pertains to the domain of networking, right? Now, this is great, but what does this do? What is this going to give us as an end outcome? Well, to showcase this model, what we are announcing for the very first time is a completely reimagined way that AI is going to help you manage your entire estate, and it's called AI Canvas. It's a completely reimagined user interface. In fact, it is a generative UI. That means that it generates dashboards on the fly in a multimodal way. And rather than me talking about it, what I thought I'd do is I'd have our head of AI and platforms, DJ, come up on stage and give you a live demo of this. So DJ, come on up. All right, buddy.
All right.
What do you have to show us?
All right, thanks for having me here, Jitu. This is really exciting. I want to show you what the team's been working on, all right? Let's get into this. I'm going to hop in here. This is AI Canvas. What you're seeing here on the left-hand side is the AI assistant, where you can use natural language to be able to communicate with the canvas. And then on the right is where the agents and humans are going to work together to be able to solve problems. All right. Now let's imagine that there is a network outage, right? And you want to be able to start, troubleshooting this. Normally what happens is you actually have a ServiceNow ticket that's raised, and the ticket has all of the details about what's going on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post this message here and tell the assistant to go fetch that data. And automatically you'll notice that it's gone out to ServiceNow and pulled all of that information right here. Folks, just so you know, this is a live demo. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed as I get into this. Yep. Normally when an admin sees this, they have to now go to different screens to be able to go out and start troubleshooting. With AI Canvas, we're making this incredibly simple. I'm just going to type in here, troubleshoot this ticket. Now this is where it starts to get really cool. The deep network model that you just announced is going to start breaking down this ticket and analyzing that it needs more data. It now is going to go to Meraki and pick out the packet loss trends, and it's going to generate the UI for you. So you just saw that it created a widget that
widget was not something you built, it actually generated the widget.
AI generates that widget, recognizes that the next thing that you're going to need is a time series data. And so you can see it's constantly thinking right here at the bottom, and it's pulling data that it needs. It recognizes now that it needs data from Thousand Eyes, not just from Meraki, to be able to show you exactly a path visualization that tells you where this outage might be happening. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you see that, you can see, boom, it's going to generate that path visualization for you and lays it all out. Now here's the other part. The assistant's also going to start giving you remediation suggestions of what you need to do to be able to start debugging this issue. But you also mentioned that troubleshooting almost always is a multiplayer sport. So if you wanted to invite other team members to jump in over here, it's really simple. You invite them to the board. I'm going to invite Lizzie here. And with a single click, it's going to generate a summary of all things that I have done so far. I don't have to sit down and type out an email to get Lizzie on the same page. And with a single click, Lizzie can jump on the board and start working together with me.
Completely collaborative.
Completely collaborative, completely multiplayer.
That's very cool.
All right. That's pretty cool, right? Okay. So here's the thing. Lizzie might come in and say, listen, I like how you're doing this, DJ, but you know what? I'm not so sure. I want to verify using another source of data. She might come in here and say, I want to correlate this with the application logs to see what's happening. Now, these logs are not inside of Thousand Eyes or Meraki, but these logs are inside of, say, for instance here, Splunk. What the deep network model is going to do, it's going to recognize that this data is not here and it needs to go to a different place, and it's going to pull that information and start to render that right here. It's going to happen any moment now. There it is. All right, and it's really simple. Here you could go ahead, drag and drop this into your canvas, and what you're seeing here is the performance of that application is starting to drop. That's your red line. And the blue line is indicating your packet loss percentage that's starting to go up. So clearly there's a correlation.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the interesting part about AI Canvas here is it's not just for monitoring. You can start to take actions just using the same console as well. And this is where the agentic ops kicks in. Let me show you how. Now back here, the assistant said, hey, you can go ahead, take these remediation actions. It says you got to configure a QoS policy on the MX device, right? So I'm going to go ahead, ask the assistant to apply the QoS policy, or the QoS stands for quality of service. And again, it's going to go out, identify exactly which device it needs to apply this to, or a set of devices, and it's going to automatically apply that and give me a widget that I can now go ahead, add back to my canvas. Now, there's something really cool over here. You'll notice that it actually says, it gives you an opportunity to revert a change. This is where we're making sure that there's always a human in the loop that can come in and change things up, based on what they're seeing. Now, back to the dashboard over here. Now that we've applied the cost policy and the agents are going out and doing the job for you, you want to make sure that these things are happening the way you expect it to. So I'm going to come back in here and say, hey, I want to keep track of this. I want to monitor how this change is affecting my environment, right? And this is where these things are not just a one-time widget. The agentic ops ensures that it's constantly going back out, fetching you live refreshed data, so it's always current whenever you come into this board. So you're going to see it's thinking right there, and it's going to pop back out in a second. But you're going to see that the graphs, the data from the Splunk and the application logic is going to go through a change. Boom. You notice that the packet loss is dropped.
Amazing.
And the application's back up and running. All of this was live, and finally, you have to write a report. Thank you. With a single click of a button, you're going to be able to generate a report, and you can add that report. And again, you don't have to sit down and write this. It takes a lot of time for the admins to do this. It's going to automatically generate that, and you can download that as a PDF, and you're off to the races.
Can I tell you a story? So when he said to me, he's like, Jeetu, I want to do this demo live. I'm like, are you sure? Because it's like, 20,000 people connecting to the same network. It's going to be embarrassing if it doesn't work. He's like, I don't think it's credible if we don't do it live. We have to do a live demo. And DJ Sampath. Hang on, you're not going anywhere. So when are you going to ship this?
This is going to be in the hands of customers by October of this year, right around the corner.
That's like, you're the longest time frame of anyone. Could you pull it up a little bit? You got like some people who are, do you guys want it earlier?
All right.
You take it in. Okay.
Here's one thing, though. The deep network model is going to be available by the end of this month for all CCIE users at the Cisco U portal.
Good.
All right.
He redeemed himself. Let's give it up for DJ Sampath, folks.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, you too.
Thank you, buddy. Great job. So if there's one thing you take away from this, is that with agentic ops, the way in which you run your network will never be the same again. And this is so cool because we're just getting warmed up. We're just getting started on this area. You're going to see a lot of innovation. And the beauty about it is it keeps getting better and better the more you use it. Okay, now let's talk about scalable network devices that are ready for AI. So we talked about operational simplicity. Let's talk about scalable network devices. And today, we're introducing one of the largest refresh of networking devices in Cisco's history. So everything from campus, branch, and industrial IoT, we've got some refreshes there for you. Right? And rather than me talk about it, let's actually play the video that the teams put together for this. They were so excited to talk about every single one of the innovations that they've been working so hard on. So let's take a look.
Introducing a new lineup for the AI era. Smart switches to scale networks simply and securely. Secure routers to protect data and devices across thousands of sites. Intelligent Wi-Fi 7 to delight even the largest crowds. Cloud-native campus gateways for seamless roaming in the campus. Wi-Fi and URWB for ultra-reliable, zero-loss access everywhere. Advanced firewalls for distributed threat detection. New rugged switches to power AI-ready factories. The secure network for AI-ready campus, branch, and industrial IoT.
of these devices orderable this month. Right? It's amazing. It's amazing. Congratulations to the team. We hope you love them as much as we've enjoyed building them. Now, what I want to do is I want to actually dig into a little bit of detail on one device, which is a whole brand new category of a device, which is the first one, the smart switches. And essentially, what smart switches are, they're built on Silicon One, of course, but they actually have an isolated compute space which can run Hypershield over time. And so you now have a switch that has isolated compute that can run other workloads like security. And that is completely revolutionary. That's not something that anyone else is doing in the market. We're the first ones to do it. We did it in the data center, and now we're bringing it to campus and branch. Super excited. We hope you order a bunch of these. All right. Next, let's talk about this. By the way, this will fundamentally, kind of change the way you future-proof your network. But as you think about the workplace, it's much more than the network. And experiences that people have in the workplace really matter. So one of the things that we've developed is a family of AI-powered collaboration devices, like I mentioned. And these collaboration devices essentially have NVIDIA chipsets in them. They've got AI capabilities in them. They're the most beautiful, gorgeous devices. I don't even know what I would do if I didn't have one of them, because when you're on calls for long amounts of time, the fatigue factor goes down. And the beauty is these are now completely integrated into an open ecosystem. So Microsoft Team Rooms runs natively on these devices. In fact, so many organizations that have standardized on Microsoft Team Rooms have actually standardized on our devices. It's hundreds of millions of dollars of value that's been created within a very short amount of time. But the real power is when these are combined with our networking capability. And so what we've done is we've actually made sure that things such as switches and cameras get augmented to this portfolio, and these all become sensors on the network. And what I mean by sensors of the network is they provide you important data about your facility, about your campus, things like temperature, things like call quality, things like occupancy data. And that data actually allows you to make sure that your environment, your workplace, can be more and more effective and can be managed in an easier way. Now, one of the things that we had really focused on about a year ago was this concept of distance zero. Distance zero means when there are two people on a call, we should make sure that the distance between those two people goes away, that they feel like they're right there with each other, right? What we want to do is we want to make sure that the distance zero, which is an end-user focused concept, we also bring for the IT administrator. And so we wanted to have one-click distance zero for the IT administrator. And we did this last year with the microphone, where we actually had, with one click, you can just easily configure this. Just plug it into a switch, and it auto-configures itself. You don't have to do anything. It's all AI configured. And we started that with the microphones, and we've got another exciting announcement for you. So let's roll video. So let me tell you what that is, because that is a bunch of cameras that auto-configure themselves to provide you cinematic quality meetings. What does a cinematic meeting mean? Have you ever noticed that it's much more tiring to be in a meeting for an hour than watch a movie for an hour? Why is that? Because in a movie, your frames keeps changing, and so it actually resets your brain every so often. But in a video call, you're just looking at the same angle for the full hour, so it gets fatiguing. What this does is if you have a conference room with multiple people, all these cameras auto-configure, and they work with each other, and they give you a cinematic quality to the meeting. So if someone is speaking, they'll give you a close-up view. If someone else is speaking, it's going to give you a zoomed-out view, and it's automatically going to do that. It's completely magical. Cinematic meetings with pan, tilt, and zoom cameras, PTZ. It's one of the best devices in the world. Folks, I think that you are really defying logic if you ignore Cisco devices in your estate in the workplace. It makes no sense. You should just make sure that you use Cisco devices in the workplace. Really. I'm telling you. All right. So now let's take a look at how we fuse security in the workplace, because not only are these the best devices and the best networks, but they're also the most secure. So how do you fuse security into the workplace? One of the areas that the industry has focused on quite a bit is this notion of zero trust, which is least privileged access. Only give people access to the things that they need access to and no more, so that they can get their job done, right? And we started zero trust network access with this notion of a user connecting to an application should only be given the appropriate amount of permissioning and no more, so that they can get the job done. Zero trust for a user connecting to an application. But now, we want to expand that aperture a little bit, because we want to reimagine zero trust, not just for users. We want to imagine it for things, and we want to imagine it for agents. And we want to make sure that that's actually securely done. We have a great video on this one as well. So let's take a look.
Today, zero trust is the new normal. You get the least access needed to get the job done, nothing more. It sounds easy, but it's not. Users and things are everywhere, accessing sensitive assets on any device from anywhere. But so are attackers, logging in with your credentials right now. So we took a different approach with Cisco Universal ZTNA. Whether you are a developer on a managed or unmanaged device, or an agentic digital worker approving a large purchase order, or an in-office printer, whether you're remote or in the office, you get the same policy and controls for over 1,200 Gen AI applications. But can you enforce zero trust for something that doesn't have an identity? We can. With ICE tags from the network, we always know who's who, even if the who is a printer. A single lightweight client provides multiple functions to deliver a seamless experience to any application, all with the magic of Duo built right in. And we don't just say we deliver a great experience, we measure it with 1,000 eyes. Even if it's not great, we show you why. With Cisco Identity Intelligence, we make sure you are who you say you are, every time. Zero friction, zero imposters, zero downtime. Cisco Universal Zero Trust Network Access. Always aware, barely there.
Pretty cool, huh? So if there's one thing, with all these security innovations you just saw, if there's one thing you take away, is Cisco is building the most comprehensive security platform for agentic AI. Like, there's no one else who even comes close. We are going to continue to keep innovating at the velocity, and that velocity and the rate of change is going to keep getting increased. The team is hungry to make sure that we serve you right, and the team is hungry to make sure that you are secure in everything that you do. Next, let's talk about digital resilience, which is the third of the 3 key outcomes and priorities that we want to focus on. Now, if you think about when you have an outage within your organization, the first few hours of the outage sometimes can be spent just determining what the challenge is. You know, is the challenge the fact that you've actually got something wrong with your network? Do you have a security breach? Is there an API overage? Or is there a bug in the application? And so the amount of time it takes to detect these outages is very long. And the complexity that you have, you all manage a very complex environment. The complexity actually creates a lot of risk for business continuity. And this notion of problem diagnosis is really hard. And so the data, which used to be largely in data centers, is now also going to be in a bunch of other places. And traditionally, data volume was constrained to data centers, but now you have data on the edge. You have, with agentic AI, you've got an explosion of data everywhere. And so essentially, when you think about this, with adding of robotics and with making sure that you have more industrial IoT in your factory floors, digital resilience and making sure that your estate is resilient is essentially a data problem. And one of the big reasons that we acquired Splunk for a small price of $28 billion was to make sure that we could actually take all this telemetry and data across multiple domains and be able to correlate it. So if you have network data and infrastructure data and application data, but also have user and device data and operations data for your IT operations and security data, let's take all of that data, keep it in place, and correlate it. And when you think about doing this, here's what you can do with all that data. The first thing you have to do when you have all this data is you have to distill it down, because the volume of this data is so high that if you actually have a very large corpus of data, it's very hard to get the signal from the noise. So you have to distill it down. Low volume, high fidelity data is the first step. Second step is you have to make sure that you can correlate that data across your data while keeping the data in place. And the third thing is you have to unleash AI on that data. And when you do that, there's a few really exciting outcomes that start to emerge. You get assurance across everything. You get observability everywhere. And the security operations center can now get fully reimagined. And so what Cisco and Splunk have been working very hard in the past year that we've actually made this acquisition is to ensure that not only do we not slow down the innovation velocity of Splunk, but we make sure that we actually have 1 + 1 = 11, right? And so just in the past few months, what we've done is we've actually had a ton of innovation. Telemetry from different sources that can be pulled together in Splunk, make sure that you can have correlation across that telemetry. But we didn't want to stop there. So today, what we're doing is we're announcing a brand new integration for Splunk observability with Catalyst, Meraki, and Thousand Eyes. And so you'll be able to now correlate network data and network health with IT service and business health data, right? And so Thousand Eyes is available now, Catalyst and Meraki available in September of 2025. It's very cool. This next one you're going to like even more. One of the things that you typically tend to use Splunk for is you ingest logs from firewalls. You just saw that we got a completely refreshed lineup of firewalls, and we've got the best hybrid mesh firewall. Wouldn't it be great if we made it more economical for you to ingest Cisco firewall logs? So for that, what we're announcing is that if your firewall log that you're trying to ingest into Splunk is from Cisco, it's going to be for free. People like free. This is going to be available in August. And as people start using Splunk more, one of the things that you find is, they aren't just using it in the cloud. Sometimes people want to use Splunk on-prem. So we said, what can we do to simplify the use of Splunk even on-prem? And so we're announcing, for the very first time, a Splunk pod which is a validated design and simplified ordering for Splunk platform with Cisco Compute. And so you'll basically have a validated design for a Splunk pod on UCS servers available in June of 2025, this month. Yeah. This was, by the way, last year, when I was at Cisco Live, this was a huge request by a lot of the Splunk customers. Now, just like we had security for AI, we want to make sure that these AI agents that get built out, there's going to be a fair amount of visibility that's going to be needed for these agents. And so we're announcing observability for AI. And it's going to be a comprehensive visibility into the AI estate. And this is going to be available in September of 2025. And what I mean by this is you will have visibility into your GPUs and the utilization of GPUs, your models and how they're being utilized. You'll have full visibility into the entire estate for AI, right? And so that's going to be available. Very excited about that. And now let's switch from observability to security operations. Folks, we must fundamentally reimagine the operations of security, and we have to do it, like Chuck mentioned, at machine scale, because the attacks are coming at us at machine scale. You can't go out and defend at human scale. It just won't work, right? And so what we've done is we are trying to make sure that we can completely reimagine the Security Operations Center. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to be delivering our unified threat detection and investigation and response platform. So essentially, we're powering the SOC of the future with a market-leading SIEM and a completely revolutionary XDR put together. Now, the amazing part about this is when you start thinking about the SOC of the future, you have to think about the model underlying it and how it's going to power the SOC in this age of AI. And so we're taking it further because we want to make sure that we have agentic AI in the SOC, and we want to make sure that these models are bespoke. So back at RSA, a couple months ago, we announced with our Foundation AI research team a security model. And the best part about this model is we open sourced it. Now, in the past couple of months, we've had over 40,000 downloads on Hugging Face on this model. It's built, purpose-built for security. It's easily customizable, and it's highly efficient. We pre-trained it on an 8 billion parameter model, which is pretty small. We actually took a corpus of data of 900 billion tokens, but only gave it the relevant 5 billion tokens we trained it on. And it actually performed better, or as well, as a 70 billion parameter model, because you've got only security problems that you're trying to train it on, right? It actually was so amazing because it ran on a single A100 GPU. So think about the cost curve going down of running these models when they're small and bespoke and specialized. But we said we want to do a little bit more with that. So we quantized that model. So instead of being 16-bit, we actually quantized it to 8 bits and 4 bits, which means you can be 4 times as efficient. This model now, folks, you can run it on a single laptop with a CPU. You don't even need a GPU to run the model. It's amazing what it can do. And essentially, that'll actually be the core foundation on top of which you can start thinking about powering the SOC, right? And so if you are interested in playing with the model, go to Hugging Face. It's called Foundation Sec. The AI research team, that was a team that actually was acquired from an acquisition we made called Robust Intelligence, is doing a fantastic job. Take a look at it. So basically, what have you heard so far in the past 58 minutes? What you've heard is we have AI-ready data centers, and we've got amazing innovation over there. We've got an amazing innovation for future-proofing workplaces. We've done a lot of work with service providers to provide the secure global connectivity, and we've got resilience. We've got digital resilience that you can make sure that we deliver. Now, one of the areas that you folks had given us a lot of feedback on that hopefully you saw some payoff today on that we are executing is make management simplified for me. So what did we do? We took Nexus OS and ACI and we merged them together. We took Catalyst and Meraki and we merged those together so that you have one common way of managing it. And we used to have, a year ago, about 15 different ways that you could manage your security. Now you've got Security Cloud Control. we think we can do even better. So I've got a surprise for you. This is the last one. We're announcing Cisco Cloud Control. And Cisco Cloud Control is unified identity, common design language, cross-product workflows, agentic ops, all in one management plane. This is something, and this is what it looks like. It's essentially something that is going to completely simplify management for you, and the core kernel of it will be AI Canvas, which is what you saw from DJ. What do you think? And hopefully what you've seen over here, if there's one thing you take away from the keynote, is if you think about the entire AI stack, right? You've got silicon, you've got the network on top of that, you've got compute, you've got data, you've got models, you've got applications that are being built. They have to be with the right level of visibility and observability, and they have to have the right level of safety and security. We play in every single one of these areas. We are spending billions of dollars a year on the stack so that you can stay safe, you can stay innovative, and you can actually be dexterous in your use with AI so that you're ahead of the market in what you do. So that is the innovation payload that the team has. Now, I have one request for you. This doesn't come easily. It takes a lot of kind of sweat and hard work from the team. And, you know, unfortunately, because these rooms can only hold X number of people, and we try to spend our budget on building products rather than travel, I want to make sure that the engineering and the product and the design teams can see if you folks feel like this was a fun innovation. Can I actually have the lights turned on and you folks give them a big round of applause? They're going to love it. They're going to love it. This is what we live for. We love to make sure that customers are delighted with our products. With that, I've saved the best for last. My good friend Kevin, Chief Product Officer of OpenAI. Let's make sure we welcome him on stage. Hey, welcome to an enterprise conference, man.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. By the way, I really like the AI Canvas. I mean, the keynote in general is fantastic, but the AI Canvas, also DJ and the bravery to come up and do a live video or a live demo. As we live stream all of our launches. It's slightly terrifying. I've got a lot of respect for it, and that really looked great.
We're actually learning from you folks, and we're going to live stream one of the AI Canvas launches as well. Like, we've done this with the product team.
Yeah.
We tried to copy you blatantly. Figured it'd be okay. So,
you know, we started just to say, we kind of did this thing around Christmas. We had all these launches bunched together, and we were like, what are we going to do? How are we going to get all of this out? And we said, okay, well, this is crazy, but what if we just did 12 days of launches in a row? And every day we live stream, and it just about killed me. But it turned out we learned something, which was a live stream is actually a really fantastic way to launch a product, because you get to communicate kind of the whole product end to end. You get to show what's going on. It's live, so it's very tangible and real. So it's actually turned out to be a really good format for us launching new things.
No, I think one of the things we struggle with, frankly, is the innovation velocity is so high, and I don't think we've cracked the code yet of getting 1 million customers, which is what we have, to really get up to speed on our products on a weekly basis. Like, we haven't cracked the code yet, but live stream might be the thing that actually makes that happen.
Yeah, much more entertaining than a blog post, right?
Much more entertaining. Hey, but you and I have known each other for a long time. Thank you for being here at the event. Let me just brag about Kevin. Kevin used to be the head of product at Instagram, head of product at Twitter. He was the president of Planet, and so many other amazing things he's done. And then he goes to OpenAI a year ago Tell us about your journey and why you chose to go to OpenAI from all these other places you were at. And how has it been in the past year?
It's been fantastic. I mean, I've been really lucky in my career to get to work at a lot of innovative, very mission-driven places, and it's the thing I look for. You know, you want to be a part of something bigger than you in the world, and you know, leave the place better than you found it, contribute. And when I wasn't looking for, I was actually trying to take a little bit of time off, and then I'd known Sam for a little while, and we talked on the phone, and I would usually call him actually when I was thinking about doing something new, because he's such a great thinker about the future. Yeah. And this time when we talked, he was like, well, actually, and as I came in and met a couple of people, I came back to him and was just like, if there's no commitment yet, I haven't even really interviewed, but like, if you give me this job, I'm just going to say yes. You know, at the risk of negotiating against myself here, I'm just going to say yes, because this is the coolest, most impactful thing I could imagine doing. And it really has been. I mean, I've learned so much. It's an absolutely incredible company. We're all seeing AI change the way that we live, that we operate in our personal lives, that every business operates. Just out of curiosity, who uses ChatGPT? That's awesome.
Actually, we can't see, so can you just, with a round of applause, who uses ChatGPT? Okay, great.
Yeah, for a product
I know my daughter uses it.
2.5 years old, to have over 500 million people using it every week, it's just, you know, it's a privilege, it's a responsibility we take really seriously, and, you know, as a product builder, it's an incredible amount of fun. Yeah,
and you folks have done such an amazing job with it, and you're an inspiration to the industry in how well you're building the products and at the speed at which you're building them. So, but there's constraints that you folks have. I know that there are times when you folks are running around trying to find GPUs even at your scale, because, you know.
And Sam will occasionally post on Twitter that we're looking for more GPUs.
Yeah. And so there's clearly a constraint on infrastructure. But if you didn't have a constraint on infrastructure, what would this look like? Like, is that your biggest kind of impediment right now for really blowing this up?
Yeah, I mean, it is, I think, and one of the things that you see us doing is big projects like Stargate, which, you know, we announced this Stargate project with President Trump and Massa and Larry Ellison and other folks in the...
We were there.
You were there, absolutely. And we're together putting an investment of something like $500 billion in compute, data centers, infrastructure, because it's so critical to the future of AI. And frankly, you know, we see over and over again, the lesson that we've learned is the more compute we have, the more powerful the models that we can build. The more powerful the models we can build, the more value we can provide to every person and every business. And so we have more or less an insatiable appetite for compute. And it's not just the models, because that's the training side of it. It's also using the models in the applications that we build, in ChatGPT and in the other products, because we're a funny company in that most companies that have a product that has a paywall, over time they move things behind the paywall. We do the opposite. Things start behind the paywall often because they use a lot of compute, and we need them to start in a more limited way. And as we have more compute, we make them free. And so, you know, with more compute, we're able to offer more things to all of the people that use ChatGPT. And then I'll give you one more thing, which is today, and we can talk about reasoning models and some of the big advances in the models themselves, but today, the models, we went from GPT-4, which, you know, you ask it a question and, like, you know, system one thinking and you get an answer. The reasoning models that we have are a little more system two. You ask them questions and they can stop and reason and build hypotheses, validate or refute those hypotheses, and they'll think. They can use lots of tools. But still, they're thinking for like a minute and then they'll give you a response. We have a product called Deep Research. It thinks for maybe 20 minutes to give you like a 20-page written report on any complex topic that you want to know about.
By the way, I think I might be the consumer of 40% of your computer research.
Amazing. But But imagine you give these models not just a second to think or a minute to think, but imagine that you give them an hour, a day. Imagine you had a model that could work for a month or a year just on some super important, really hard problem. You could do, I think we're going to make amazing advances in really critical things like fundamental science and biology with models that can think that long. And it takes a huge amount of compute to do it. So my answer is, with more compute, I mean, we could do so many more things. And that's why we're investing, and we're investing together.
Right. And how constrained is this from a network infrastructure? And what do you think of safety and security in the whole?
I mean, all of this is critical, right? You can't, it can't just be GPUs. You've got to have super robust, highly performant networking infrastructure. You've got to have security in everything that you do, because at the end of the day, we produce a set of weights, and people are trusting us with really important information. So it's got to be the whole package, right? It's not just one thing. All of it has to come together so that we can build applications that people trust, and you all can build businesses that can rely on it.
And so talk a little bit about, like, you've now been there for a year.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite product launch that you've done? What's the thing what's been the thing that's most exciting to you? And also the next question I want to ask that you can think about is, what's the most surprising thing that you didn't think you would see at OpenAI that you ended up seeing?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think, probably my favorite product that we've launched so far, and I hope I'm giving you a different answer in a little while, but is this deep research product. Because it's the first example. People are talking about agents, and it's the first example of an agent that really qualitatively changed something for me. I use ChatGPT all the time, as I hope all of you do as well, and it saves me a bunch of time here and there. It's like helping me, brainstorm, write emails, look things up, learn about new topics. But it's probably saving me, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes here and there. This deep research product that we launched allows you to ask the model this, any arbitrary tough question. Give me an analysis across all 50 states of the tax differences in this one particular thing if I'm going to go into this market, and break it all down in a table, and also talk to me about, break it down in these other 3 ways. Stuff that you would have to go, if you were going to go do this yourself, or you were going to, assign an intern to go do it, would take a week. You'd be looking at hundreds of different sites and cobbling together information. And actually, that's what the model goes and does. So we built a model that's really good at doing internet research, and it can go and look at hundreds of different sites, figure out what it's learned, how well that answers your question based on what it's got. Maybe it realizes there are still some gaps, so it'll go do some more research, and then come back with like a 20-page report that it's got, breaking down exactly what you asked for. And to me, it's a qualitative difference, because like all of you, I've got more things to do than I have time. And so I just wouldn't have gone and done all of those things. I just wouldn't have had time. So it's not just that it saves me a little time. It actually lets me do and learn totally novel things. And I'm super excited about that.
And what's surprised you the most as you've either built that product or you've built other products at OpenAI that you didn't expect? Because you came from some pretty exponential companies as well, with what you experienced at Twitter and then also what you experienced at Instagram. During the time that you were there, what surprised you about OpenAI?
I think one of the most interesting things has been that you need to build models differently in a world, or build products differently in a world of AI and models, because we're used to a world of semi-static, not static, but like the technology that you work with, you understand. When I was building Instagram, we were using databases, and databases get better at some relatively modest percentage every year. You kind of know what you're working with. And so you're spending time thinking about the product you're solving and who you're building it for, and how you can build them a great product. And then at OpenAI, every 2 or 3 months, there's a new model, and computers can do something that computers have never been able to do in the history of computers. And you need to completely rejigger your roadmap around it, because all of your assumptions now can be thrown out because there are a whole bunch of new capabilities. And that's super fun. It's also, I mean, it means that we need to be very iterative, very bottoms up. It's very hard to plan this stuff top down. So what you want is lots of smart people using the new models and trying to imagine what's possible with the new capabilities that come. It's a totally different way of building product, but it's super fun, and feel very lucky to be doing it.
Yeah, and you folks are doing such a good job. One of the things we found is the composition of the team has changed, where AI research now is the fourth leg of the stool. It's not just product management, design, and engineering. It's also AI research.
Yeah.
And in fact, AI Canvas, when we actually interviewed the team, the AI research person had a lot of opinions on the way that this should actually evolve. Is the distance between the model and the product actually just compressing? Is that what you're talking about? Like it's going to be, when the iteration happens, it's happening on the model, not on the product in some cases.
Yeah, and one of the things that we believe is as you build products, you want to expose the model in pretty reasonable, you want to keep the model sort of front and center in the product, because the pace of change and the increase in capabilities of the model is so fast that if you try and build a bunch of scaffolding around the model, like, oh, well, it's only 90% good at this particular case, so we need to build these error correction mechanisms and protect then in 2 or 3 months, the model's going to be way better. You're not going to have those problems, but actually your scaffolding is still going to be there and it's going to be getting in the way. And so what we actually try and do is expose the model in the product so that as the model gets better, the products just improve automatically, which is also like a little bit of a different way of thinking. The other thing that you just said was you were talking about product engineering, design, and research almost being a fourth. The other kind of cool thing that's happening is with a lot of these tools, product and engineering and design can kind of merge in ways that they couldn't before. Like I used to be an engineer. I write code on the weekends sometimes, but I'm no longer a serious engineer. Nobody would pay me to write code. But we launched this product called Codex, which is a software engineering agent. You guys are...
We're the first design partner, yeah.
Cisco is the first design partner. We're super excited. And the idea with, if you're coding, today you've got a lot of tools like GitHub Copilot, Cursor, Windsurf, that are using AI to augment an individual engineer. So think of it as like a super intelligent autocomplete as you write code. With Codex, the idea is different. You actually give it a task, and it goes off and does it independently for you. So you can say, hey, I want to implement this feature. Can you go do this? Or, hey, can you audit all of the dependencies in my software? And if any of them are out of support, I want you to update those dependencies and then update all of the usage of those dependencies to the latest version. So you give it arbitrarily complex tasks, and it can go do the work for you. And so the other night, I was doing my PM things, writing emails and docs and stuff, and I was like, I should fix a couple bugs. And
why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
And so I went and found a couple bugs that looked reasonably simple. They're actually in TypeScript, which was not a language I've ever written code in. And I gave it to Codex. It chugged away for 5 or 10 minutes, came back with a pull request, and I sent that to an actual engineer. Yes. Still human in the loop, still important. But now I've submitted some code, and so we're starting to enable PMs to write software, at the very least to prototype. You've got these image generation tools that can allow anybody to become a designer, or again, at least to the prototype level. I think it means that we're all going to be much more productive. We're democratizing the ability for people to write software. Software is an incredibly generative thing. If you can write software, you can solve all kinds of problems. I just think it's a super exciting world. And by the way, we're very excited for our partnership.
No, we are actually, so one of the questions I had was, what percentage of code do you think will eventually be written by AI? And then what will the engineers do if the code's being written by AI? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so here's my analogy for this. Have people seen Hidden Figures? The movie, it's about the space race and these women that played an incredible role. A bunch of that movie is, you have these scenes where they're like doing longhand rocketry calculations on like big pieces of paper. And you look at that today and you're like, oh my God, we would never do that today. Like, computers are just better at doing rocketry calculations. And I think 5 years from now, we're going to look at humans writing code, and we're going to say similar things. We just probably wouldn't do that today. Computers are better than humans at writing code. But by the way, rocket scientists and rocket science is still a hugely important discipline. We still have lots of rocket scientists, and they're really important. We're still going to have engineers. Engineering skills are still going to be super important. It's just going to be a very different world. And I think a much faster, more efficient, we're going to be able to create more because of it. So I'm personally very optimistic.
I actually think the brain cycles that these big brains who are engineers have can be applied to so many more strategic things, because they don't have to take 30% of their cognitive load and worry about syntax.
Yeah.
Because that's something that's taken care of.
Totally. And there's a lot of times when you're writing code, when you've got the architecture in place, you know how to do what you're going to try and do, and in between you and that is just a whole lot of typing. And if AI can get ahead of that and do it faster, amazing.
Right. Hey, why'd you decide to join the Cisco board?
I've been around technology all my life. My dad was an engineer at Microsoft all through the 80s and 90s, so I grew up going to work with him. Cisco is just this, as someone who's been in technology all my life growing up, Cisco is this incredible, iconic company. So there's that. And then you look at all the stuff that you guys are showing today, talking about networking and security down into silicon, all of the cool things you're doing with generative UI, which, by the way, I think generative UI is a big part of the future of UI. We're going to have a lot more UI that's built on the fly. Kudos to you guys for being so ahead of the curve on that. But it's both this iconic, incredible company and a company that has so much of a role to play in the future. So I couldn't be happier to be a small part of it, and excited to help however I can.
We are thrilled that you're here. So in the last question for you is, if you were to fast forward to the latter half of 25 and maybe 26, because it's actually impossible to start predicting what's happening in AI these days because it's moving so fast, but you have a better seat than anyone else. What do you think happens in 25 and 26?
I think, so the trend that we're sort of passing through right now is people think of ChatGPT, they think of this thing where you go and you type a question and you get an answer. And by the way, that's amazing, right? You can ask anything, you can use the full subtlety and nuance of the human language, you get back detailed, thoughtful responses about any topic in the world. It's amazing, but we're going to see AI take us from just answering questions to actually doing things for you in the real world. So it's not just going to be a thing where you go and get a particular answer. You're going to have it connected to your data, obviously with your control, but things like email and calendar and other services that you use. And it's going to be reasoning for you at all times in the background, like a super assistant would, and it's going to be actually completing tasks for you in the real world. How much of your day today is something that you need to get it done. It's important that you complete the task, but the act of completing the task is not particularly valuable to you. It's kind of busy work, right? I want all of that automated. And with an AI that can reason, that can see, that can speak, can listen, can understand live video, can sort of interact in all of the ways that we as humans interact, and can reason, so can think intelligently and form hypotheses and act on those hypotheses, and is connected to, to the services that you use every day, the tasks that you do. I think we're going to actually be able to go from reactive to proactive and automate a lot of the work people do in their daily lives and in work. And I think that's a super exciting world, because what it means is we all are going to be able to get more done, spend more time on things that are super high leverage for us, maybe also spend a little more time with our families in the process. And that's a future I'm really excited about.
Kevin Weil, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Hey.
Thank you. All right, so we're coming to a close. All I could say to you is this is a great time to be alive in tech. Thank you for the partnership. Go to the deep dives. You'll learn a lot more about what we talked about. Enjoy Cisco Live. We're honored to be your partners. Thank you all. Take care.